So today, let's hit the other 34% of that equation, right? Because last Friday I shared with you, you're giving away 64% of your income. Yesterday, we covered 30% of that, which is you're giving it to the government in your taxes. How do we reduce our tax burdens? Today, we're going to address the other 34%, which is interest that you're paying to banks. All right, so here's the thing. There's two types of interest in life, and that is the interest you pay and the interest you learn. And sadly, for most people, the interest you pay is the only interest that they are familiar with for their entire life long. But what if you could flip that model and you could start being the one to collect interest rather than the bank all the time? So how do we get there? Well, first there's the obvious and the logical solution, which is we have to reduce the amount of interest we're paying to banks. Before I even get into that, I want you to think about this for a second. And I know that I've already probably got a few people that are thinking to themselves, well, that's impossible. I have to have a loan on my house. I have to have a loan on my car. I want to encourage you to throw out your limiting beliefs for a second and think that you actually are worth enough that you can put value out there and create income out of thin air so that you don't have to be stuck in a trap where you borrow money for everything you have. Can I get you to believe that? Can I get you to believe that and believe that you don't have to rely on a bank to help you achieve the amount of capital necessary to purchase a car, purchase a home, make the investments you want to make, take the financial risks you want to take? You don't need the bank. And I want you to think about this. I want you to think about the game of Monopoly. Think about who always wins in the game of Monopoly. You're like, well, I don't know. I mean, depending on who the players are, it might change from time to time. But there is one consistent role in that game of Monopoly, and that role, that person, that entity always wins. What is it? It's the bank. The bank is always collecting money. The bank is always loaning money out at the lowest risk, and it's incumbent upon the borrowers to pay the bank back. The bank always wins at the game of Monopoly. And that's the way our society is structured. The bank always wins in the financial game. Go back to the foreclosure crisis in like 2008, I think it was 2008, 2009, where we saw that. Who was winning that whole time? The market was crashing. People were losing their homes, being foreclosed on. And despite having made a bunch of reckless and irresponsible loans, the banks were winning. Because for those who were still paying their mortgages, the banks were still collecting the interest. They were still collecting their monthly cash flow. And for those who got foreclosed on, the banks were getting the assets back. So think about this. Every time, with the exception of a credit card, which, by the way, banks have a way to make up for credit card risk too. But with the exception of credit cards, which are unsecured, think about any time a bank loans you or anybody else money. They secure that money. They secure it with an asset that's worth something. They don't take any risk. So they're going to loan you money at a higher interest rate than they pay you, by the way, because if you deposit $1,000 in a bank, they're going to pay you less than 1% in interest in your account, right? Or in a CD, maybe they'll pay you a couple of percent, maybe, if the interest rates are high enough. So you're going to deposit $1,000. The bank's going to take that $1,000 and they're going to loan out $10,000, and they're going to charge a much higher interest than what they are paying you to have that money. You see what they're doing? They're setting themselves up to win this game. Then they're going to loan that money to somebody who doesn't really need it, who can provide an asset as collateral that more than makes up for the balance of the loan. Typically 65 to 70% loan to value, meaning if you give them an asset worth $100,000 that the loan is secured by, they're only going to loan out $65,000 to $70,000 on that asset that's worth $100,000. The game is structured so the bank can win. And then on top of that, first of all, they have the ability to tell you yes or no, we're going to loan you the money or we're not. Then if they do, they're going to tell you the payback terms. They're going to tell you what the payments are going to be, what the rate's going to be, what the timeline's going to be, and what the penalties are if you fail to follow through. You see how the bank is set up to win? So, what if you could turn that on its head, and what if you could start being the bank? You're like, well, how do I do that? Okay, so here we are. You absolutely have to, if you have credit card balances right now, it has to become your top priority to get rid of those. You have to stop paying 10 plus percent, 12 plus percent, 20 plus percent on money that you're borrowing. If you don't have it to spend, you cannot be using credit cards to artificially create money and then pay it back at 10+%, 20%. Do you understand how that's a losing game over the entire course of your life? You can never possibly get ahead. You're digging a progressively deeper hole. That has to stop. Once the credit cards are paid off, I want you to take the money that you would have been paying on your credit cards. Let's say it's $100 a month. Let's say it's $500 a month, $800 a month. Stash it away. Stash it into a tax advantage place. Whole life insurance or Roth IRAs are a great place to start. Don't have time to get into the details of that today. If you want to learn more, go to my LinkedIn, Adam Doran, on LinkedIn. I've got articles on that stuff, okay? And if you want more details, send me a message on LinkedIn and I'll help you with that. We're eventually going to design a course on the specifics of how to do this stuff, okay? But work on becoming the bank. Work on building capital. So stop paying credit card loans. Here's the other thing. Stop paying for a car loan. You can downgrade. If you're paying $400 a month for a car, that's $400 a month that you could be putting into your Roth IRA, into your life insurance, into some other tax-sheltered vehicle, and you could be turning interest on that by loaning it out and being a bank yourself. You have to get rid of your car payment. If it takes selling the car and then lowering your standards and buying yourself a $3,500 junker for a while, just imagine what can happen if for the next 5 years, instead of having 5 years of car payments, you put away $300 to $400 a month for 5 years. Think about that. Think about that. And then what can happen when you start earning interest on that? You absolutely have to turn this model on its head. Here's the other thing. A big key for savings. I've had to do this, okay? Because having the discipline and making the decision to save regularly is so hard. I automate my savings. Every month, it doesn't matter. The money's coming out. It's already allocated. And there's nothing I can do about it. I've got an agreement in place with my insurance company where I shelter my money. It comes out every single month. It's automated. That's what you have to do too. You can't add to the decision-making matrix there, because just to make the decision to go in, log into your bank account, and save that money, it's so hard to do. Hi, how are you? Thanks for saying hi. Okay, so just want you to think about this. Instead of being the one to pay the money out all the time, why don't you become the bank and be the one to start having people paying you money? Own stocks, they pay you dividends. Loan out money, your borrowers pay you payments. Own cash flow investments like real estate, it writes you a check every month. Okay? Interest that you pay versus interest that you earn. You want to be earning, not paying. So the next time a $1 bill or a $5 bill or a $20 bill comes into your hand, I want you to look at it and I want you to picture what it could be in 10 years if you start making interest on it. And then I want you to picture how it instantly goes away if you decide to pay interest on it. That's all I've got for you today, okay? So that's the second part of the equation. The 64% you're giving away, 34% of it is interest to banks. What if you were making that rather than paying it?